And today, there was a damning editorial by the Wall Street Journal editorial board denouncing Hamas's tactics as backwards morality. Moments ago, I spoke to former Israeli ambassador to the United States, Michael Oren, who said Israel is being held to a double standard and Hamas is counting on it. Ambassador, this is the third straight day of videos posted by the IDF showing Hamas weapons and supplies hidden behind MRI machines inside hospitals. For years, leading news organizations have reported and shown proof that Hamas operated inside hospitals. So where are the protests of Hamas using civilians as human shields?
Well, that's a really good question. And lots of protests about Israel supposedly invading or targeting hospitals. You had the BBC actually saying that Israel targets medical workers and Arabic speakers. We actually said we were sending in medical workers and sending in Arabic speakers. So there's a predisposition to just to condemn us, irrespective of what. I think it's interesting to say that this is just one room in this hospital. Wait till our forces go to other rooms in the hospital, and then really wait till they go beneath the hospital, where we believe, and the United States believe, the Biden administration believes, that Hamas has a major headquarters.
Yeah, you see Colonel Conrica say, we're not going to edit the video. This is going to be one long tracking shot, because they know they're being accused of editing the video or planting this evidence, despite the fact that news organizations like the New York Times, the Washington Post, the BBC, NPR, PBS have all reported for years that Hamas has been inside these hospitals, at one point even shooting outside one of the hospitals.
Yeah, we saw a video of a Hamas terrorist coming out with an RPG, a shoulder-fired grenade, shooting at our forces, then running back inside the hospitals. I don't know how much more evidence we can deduce to convince the world. I don't know if part of the world is actually willing to look at our evidence, but I think it's going to become irrefutable. It's going to become irrefutable when we get into the major command centers, and we'll show how this entire hospital, which, by the way, people forget, this hospital actually was built by Israel for the people of Gaza, was used by Hamas as a command center. The fighting in these buildings is absolutely brutal, and everything is booby-trapped. Everything in that hospital is booby-trapped.
We keep hearing from doctors who are trying to save civilians inside these hospitals, doctors who are on the phone or on camera, denying that Hamas is there. Do they not know? Are they lying? Are they afraid to say what they really know?
Well, I'd like to be able to give them the benefit of the doubt and say the latter is the possibility. They have families. They're afraid. Hamas kills Palestinians. Hamas kills collaborators, what they call collaborators, in that hospital, Elizabeth. And it's been documented. Yahya Sinwar, the head of Hamas in Gaza, gained his reputation by killing collaborators and killing them in the most brutal possible way.
Israel has offered to evacuate patients from the hospital. It has offered to supply incubators and respirators. It's even offered fuel for hospital generators. And the U.S. State Department confirms Hamas turned that down. So why are we still hearing crowds accusing Israel of genocide and absolving Hamas of its responsibility for Palestinian suffering?
You want the truth? It's anti-Semitism. And I say this without, I'm smiling, but I'm not smiling. You didn't see any protests when 500,000 Syrians were massacred. You didn't see any protests when hundreds of thousands of Yemenis were massacred or Sudanese were massacred. You didn't even hear any protests when the Syrian government went into the Palestinian refugee camps outside of Damascus and machine gunned thousands of Palestinians. Not a peep from anybody. Only when Israel has to go to war to defend itself, only when Israel against a terrorist organization that butchered, massacred, raped, mutilated 1,200 Israelis and then took over 240 hostages and then hid behind a hospital. Then hid behind many hospitals and a civilian population and prevented that civilian population from leaving often at gunpoint. Am I making my point strong enough here? What is that other than extraordinarily singling Israel out and holding it to a completely different moral standard?
The Wall Street Journal editorial board writes today that Hamas can end the hospital crisis anytime it wants. It refuses to do so, counting on the West to bail it out by forcing Israel to stand down. You have said that a ceasefire would mean death for Israel.
It is true. It means death. It means Hamas gets away with mass murder. It means that 250,000 Israelis who've been made homeless by this crisis can't go home. You wouldn't go home to a house along the border where Hamas is allowed to rearm and regroup. And the Hamas leadership itself says that given the first opportunity, it's going to launch another attack. I mean, what else evidence do you need? And if there's a ceasefire, we lose our deterrence power. The message will get out to all of our enemies in the world, particularly to the Iranians, that you could strike us with impunity. And when we try to defend ourselves, the world will slap a ceasefire, will tie our hands, and Israel will die. What's particularly interesting and galling and maddening is that nobody's calling on Hamas to surrender. Nobody.
I want to get your reaction to some remarks today from the Turkish President Erdogan. He said, Israel, your time of death is now coming. You are a goner. Israel is a terror state. From the Turkish president.
Yeah, he's lovely. I've been involved in one reconciliation with Mr. Erdogan. There's been another one now more recently. And every time we have to caution ourselves that this gentleman does not change his stripes. He remains an Islamicist. Turkey's one of the principal backers of Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. And he remains deeply, and I think unabashedly, anti-Semitic.
Ambassador Michael Oren, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Be well. Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.